Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with me, Christian Harris. In this episode, we're exploring one of the biggest shifts facing the profession right now, the changing skills that EHS leaders need to stay relevant and effective in a rapidly evolving world. My guest is Lucas Dominguez, founder of the Safety 4.0 Academy, and a leading voice on technology, digital fluency, and the future of safety leadership. Together, we discuss why traditional technical expertise on its own is no longer enough, how AI and emerging technologies are reshaping the role of the safety professional, and what practical steps you can take to stay ahead. We also look at where the real opportunities lie, what's genuine value versus hype, and why the future of safety leadership is about combining human capability with digital confidence. If you want to remain influential in the boardroom, reduce low-value admin, and focus more time on what really makes people safer, this conversation will give you plenty to think about. Enjoy it. Cheers. Here's a blunt question. Are your safety skills ready for 2026? This week on the Safety and Risk Success podcast, I'm joined by Lucas Dominguez, founder of the Safety 4.0 Academy, and we tackle one of the biggest shifts facing our profession. For years, being technically strong and compliance-focused was enough. NEBOSH, IOS, policies, audits, KPIs, that got you through the door. But the world has changed. AI is now in the workplace. Boards are talking about digital transformation. Dashboards and data are shaping decisions. And safety is being asked to do more with the same or even fewer resources. The uncomfortable truth: technical expertise on its own is no longer enough. We discuss what's real versus hype with AI, where the genuine opportunities lie, and how digital fluency can actually free you from low-value admin so you can focus on what really makes people safer. If you want to stay influential in the boardroom and not be left playing catch-up, then this episode is for you. Listen now and let me know your biggest takeaway.
Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with Christian Harris. We believe that proactive safety and risk management powers business performance. Each week, we explore this theme, sharing guests, stories, insights, trends, hints, and tips. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and video versions are available on YouTube. But for now, let's join the conversation with Christian.
So, thank you guys for joining this Safety Roundtable session with a really important topic and a really great guest, Lucas. I'll introduce Lucas in a moment. Let me just stop sharing actually and get in to see everyone's happy faces. So if you've not been to a Safety Roundtable before, it's designed to be an interactive session, hence the name Roundtable. So I've got Lucas today as the guest. He and I are going to be having a chat and talking about lots of different things that are relevant, hopefully, to you guys in the audience. But absolutely, we would love to have your questions in the chat, or ideally, if you're feeling brave, go into reactions, raise your hand, and come and chat to us, ask us a question, give us your perspective, and we can try and make this into a nice interactive discussion. So that's kind of how it works. If you're joining us today, or if you're listening to this or watching this on the replay, and you've got an idea for a future topic for a safety roundtable and or a guest, even if that's yourself and you want to say, yeah, put your hand up and come on and be a guest, do drop a note in the chat or send me a DM or an email or whatever it is. Always looking for topics, always looking for guests, and really welcome anybody that's brave and forthright enough to kind of come and give some opinions on stuff. So anything that you've got in mind would be fantastic. So let's get into today's session, joined by Lucas Dominguez. I'm sure he'll give a bit of background into himself in a moment, but he is a trusted safety tech and AI voice within the EHS space. He's the founder of the Safety 4.0 Academy, which we'll speak about a little bit later. And how I've come to know Lucas is really around his focus on very, very practically helping people who are in the safety and risk world to build digital fluency and really thinking about, how to upskill yourself and be ready for what's going on in the world. And hence the topic of today being about the skills that are needed for 2026. So, Lucas, thank you for joining.
No, it's my pleasure. And thanks for the invitation, Christian. It's always good to come and speak about a topic that for me is so important, especially when it's for such a special audience like yours. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we look forward to chatting with the audience as we get into it today. So let's start with this. You've been working in this space and we're working with EHS leaders around the world. From your perspective, what's changed in the last few years that makes these sort of traditional safety skills on their own no longer enough?
That's a great question. A good way to start a chat. So yeah, as I said, I've been around for about 15, 17 years. I started my career in Brazil because I'm Brazilian. Boots on the ground, clipboard, checklist, and a digital camera, going on site and chasing compliance, KPI, the kind of stuff that is something so natural. Is still today in our profession. So throughout the years, I was very fortunate to work in companies that really value the role of technology, not to replace people, not to replace our unique skills, but to serve as a powerful tool to unlock more time, to allow us to have more freedom to do what we love. And throughout my journey working in oil and gas, construction, and deep tech companies, I started to develop this passion about, well, I love this thing about technology. I think that it has a very special place in the big scheme of things. And on the other hand, I still see my community, my profession as a whole, is still attached to paperwork, to things that are really fragmented, chasing siloed data. And when it's like when they look at on the clock, it's already 5 p.m. So things have changed dramatically in the last 15 years or so. And I like to say that safety leadership, in the way I see it, has changed more in the last couple of months than in the last 2 decades, because I've been there, I've been experiencing this journey myself. So safety is, and it will continue to be, a very deep human profession, and that's great because AI, tech, and all that interesting stuff cannot replace our critical skills, the core fundamentals of our profession. But on the other hand, we also see the environment around us changing really fast, driven by this rapid technological change. So our species is pretty much adaptable. That's what Darwin said. So if the environment around us is changing, we have to change as well. So the industry today is 4.0. It's powered by IoT, mobile cloud computing, artificial intelligence, the kind of stuffs. So how can we allow ourselves as professions to still be playing the game that was like established 30, 40, 50 years ago? Having said that, I noticed this shift and I started to research about what works and what is hype and fluff. And I was convinced that developing digital skills, fluency, and literacy is no longer optional for us. It became a must-have in the big scheme of things. It can either be your biggest problem or, in my view, your biggest opportunity.
Yeah, that makes sense. And thanks for giving that context. So, would it be fair to say then, from your perspective, that the safety world or the safety profession is at a bit of a turning point? So you've mentioned, that this rise of technology and we need to be kind of jumping on board with that. But there's also lots of other things driving what we need to do in safety and the outcomes we need to achieve. Lots of You could probably say we're doing more activity than ever, but are we necessarily getting better outcomes? Is it fair to say that we're sort of at a point where we kind of need to adapt now to thrive, and if we don't adapt, then there's a chance of sort of us doing whatever the opposite of thriving would be in this scenario?
No, I think you're correct, and let me try to frame this the best way I can. So, in the last couple of years and months, I've heard a lot of people saying, "Well, will AI replace safety professionals?" And because I studied so much this topic, the simple and straightforward answer is no. AI is not going to replace us because our profession, as I said, is like something that requires empathy, coaching skills, face-to-face conversations, and that kind of stuff. AI cannot do that yet. Hopefully, it will never will. Um, on the other hand, our profession is something that is not evolving in a way that we are taking a lot of stuff on board more and more, chasing KPIs and OKRs and all the things that have been introduced throughout the years that they are still valid, but somehow they are they were created for a world that is not the world we're living today. So I recently read again a fantastic book by Eric Holengel about safety one and safety two, which
Yeah.
is a transition from compliance driven to something more proactive and powered by human factors, which I strongly agree. But that book was written like 12 years ago. And I don't think that Eric was or had at the time any way of predicting what 2026 would look like. So safety one, safety
I don't think we could even predict 2026 and 2025, to be fair to Eric.
exactly. So what I'm saying is that we're still attached to models that need to evolve. Because as I said, we're taking more on board every day. And historically, health and safety is a function that has a lot of compliance stuff to solve, people to protect. But in regards to resources, we're not getting the biggest budget in the business. Our function is one of the smallest in the business itself.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of things to do, but the resources are not, enough for us to do everything that we have to do that we have in our plate. So my point here about the skills and the shifts is that technology today exists to augment our capabilities, to allow us doing more with the same amount of time that we have, to automate boring, low value stuff that doesn't move the needle in the big scheme of making people safe every day. So yes, it's a big shift, and as I said, it could be your biggest problem if you play catch up. But if you decide to become a change maker instead of a rule keeper, you can benefit from this shift and thrive and stay relevant and stay competitive and sharp in a very competitive market.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it's kind of moving from being a hub of compliance and being compliance centered to seeking to be delivering more strategic value, I guess, in a sense.
Absolutely. Especially if
Yeah,
you're like a senior leader that you have to engage with like executives in a boardroom, for example. Those people, they are already speaking the language of AI, digital transformation, that kind of stuff. And they are demanding you to know about, understanding more about data, creating and translating dashboards into actionable things for them to, take actions. So if you do not follow that, let's say, trend, you would be at the corner of the boardroom instead of engaging with the business leaders that are making, informed decisions every day and changing things. Especially now, Christian, that AI itself has become a new category of workplace risk, in my view. So
yeah,
we need to be
yeah,
able to understand it in order to manage and mitigate those risks.
yeah. So when you're having conversations with senior teams and senior EHS professionals, what are the sort of gaps or challenges that you're seeing? The difference between what the average, and I know that's a sort of not that easy to come up with an average, but an average EHS professional, the skills that they've got, and what are the sort of skills being demanded by the boards. Where are those gaps kind of most commonly found?
Well, I believe that the fundamental gap is about digital literacy and understanding the tech, not becoming a data scientist or someone that is like a very tech savvy, but understanding the basics so you can make informed decisions. So we have 33 people in the call now, and I'm pretty sure that most of them are using AI on a daily basis for something. In some cases, safety related, in other cases, not safety related. But if you don't understand AI itself, the risks and also the opportunities, you are running the risk of making poor decisions, especially when you want to do safety related tasks. So to answer your question, I recently read a study by the World Economic Forum in regards to the set of skills required in 2025 and how that will change in 5 years' time. And it's interesting to see the shifts, things like AI, tech, data going to the top of the charge, but also things like critical judgment and emotional intelligence, adaptive intelligence, also remaining at the top of of the chart itself. But also other things that used to be like at the top of the corner, so at the top of the chart, sorry, also going down a few positions and making this transition. So I think that's the way we go and take our certificates and diplomas hasn't changed in the last 40, 50 years at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah,
The big traditional schools in safety, the likes of NIBOSH, IOSH, those guys, they are still teaching compliance. And that's great because that's what the market is demanding still. So that's a strong necessity of keeping the fundamentals around the same things. But as I said, the world is changing fast. So I don't think that safety professionals can expect much from those organizations because the knowledge and the skills are not coming from there. So you need to make an informed decision about how you want to position yourself as a future ready safety leader or someone that is like playing the game that was established like 20, 30 years ago. So the skills have changed, Chris. And the best way I can give you to illustrate this statement, I posted on LinkedIn something really, really interesting. Yesterday I was browsing job opportunities because I do this regularly just for fun. And I saw a big American company based in California looking for a safety director, an asset safety and asset protection director to be based in London, but to lead the business globally, including the American portion of the business, right? So when I was looking at the skills of this job, there was a very big paragraph about being digitally enabled, understanding AI, technology, data, systems, to influence, decision making in the business. So that paragraph is now becoming more and more prominent in the job descriptions that I'm seeing on LinkedIn. So if you want to position yourself to take those special roles that are highly paid roles, you need to start learning the basics. And it's not complicated, As I said, my background is occupational health and safety engineering like yours. I'm not a data scientist, but I dedicate time to learn about those skills and how to position myself in the way that I believe the future is being shaped.
yeah. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. What strikes me is that I'm trying to think of an analogy. I can't really come up with a good analogy, but the sort of technical skills and the diplomas and all that kind of stuff, like the entry to the theme park, let's say, it's the ticket to get you through the door of the theme park. But actually, if you want to have loads of fun and have a really good time at the theme park, you need to be, tall enough to be above that height to get on that massive roller coaster, and that's the best, most fun thing you can do. And I suppose we need to look at these as a sort of bare minimum entry to the game, a bit like compliance, I suppose. But actually, to succeed, we need to go beyond compliance, and therefore, in our careers and our skill sets, we've got to go beyond those basic levels of technical proficiency into
Yeah,
some of these other skills. Does that kind of make sense?
yeah, absolutely, Chris. So, for example, you mentioned about compliance-driven roles. AI today is capable of mapping compliance requirements in any regulation whatsoever. So if you're working in Dubai, for example, if you work in New York or in the UK, in London, AI can map those regulations for you. And there are apps nowadays being purposely built for that, regard. So the way I see the future is that if you are at the entry level of your career, learning those fundamentals and basics and making it really sharp, it still matters a lot. But as you grow, as you become more senior, you really need to start developing that set of skills. So as you said, you can start to go to the, let's say, more fun rides, meaning getting the best job opportunities, getting, the best salary, getting your promotions, having more freedom to do what you love, which is keeping people safe. So yeah, so if you don't, pay attention to that new economy, which is the digital age, you may be running the risk of not having the progress you expect for your career. And that's me saying I'm not a guru. I'm not predicting the future, but that's my feeling. That's how I'm positioning myself, and that's how I'm teaching others EHS leaders globally to do. And
Yeah.
this is backed by data. This is not Lucas saying, this is what research has been showing us. So we are just, reading the data and, framing it accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So let's move on in a second to thinking, right, what actions can we take and what does that new skill set look like? But if we just sort of go back ever so slightly in terms of the tech, because you mentioned something interesting around, AI also being a risk in and of itself. There's loads and loads of noise about AI and safety technology, as there is about AI and technology, outside of the safety space as well. What would you say, given all of that research that you've done, is kind of real, and what's the hype?
That's a great question. Would you allow me to share my screen for a moment?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Lovely. Um, okay, let's see if it works. Okay, so can you see
Yeah,
my screen?
that's working. Yeah, yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Okay. So yeah, so in regards to that particular question, and this is a presentation that I use all the time. So as I said, this is the skills gap that I see at the moment. And this is the study that I just mentioned about the shift of skills and the skills that employers will value the most by 2030. And this is a study by the World Economic Forum. Um, so you asked about the opportunities, right? So this is where I see AI and safety maturing faster. So for example, I built this chart here in four categories. The blue dots are for documentation, the green are for training, the yellows are for compliance, and the red ones are for advanced use of AI. So I can see AI delivering ROI currently for translation documents, creating policies, procedures, risk assessments, AI chatbots responding to your company-specific procedures and policies. Um, I personally love visuals, Christian, and I think that safety is
Same.
professional visuals a lot. So I remember a few years back, I used to create PowerPoint presentations for my meetings and I used to spend hours because I'm very perfectionist in regards to the visuals I use, the data, the charts, etc. And nowadays, there are tools like Gemini, Gamma, Canva AI, and those things that are AI powered and deliver results so fast, and it can save you hours of work. So if you know how to prompt correctly, you can even clone yourself nowadays, Christian. So you can deliver training in any language about procedures, SOP, instead of paying lots of money for other people to build the training for yourself. So you can save time by cloning yourself and then asking your clone to deliver the training. There are more advanced use of AI. So, for example, the construction sector has been using AI for building digital twins. And I've seen manufacturing company, logistics companies, oil and gas businesses using AI for computer vision, which is pretty much AI algorithms linked to cameras, CCTV cameras, and then they are trained to spot human behavior. And those are the opportunities, right? But there are also risks. And this is interesting here, Christian, because this is from an IBM presentation from 1979. It says that a computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make a management decision, right? So how can we build trust with AI? What are the risks? Are you going to say something, Chris?
I was just interested to hit to for those that are with us, um, this is kind of running almost counter to what people are feeling at the moment, isn't it? It seems to be, to me anyway, that people are relying on AI, maybe over relying on AI to make some quite important decisions. And yet here we
Absolutely.
are all those years ago saying that, you can't hold that machine accountable and therefore don't allow it to be accountable. Yeah,
Yeah.
interested if anyone's got any perspectives on that, fire something into the chat.
Yeah, let us know
Carry
in
on.
the chats how you're managing, how you're using AI at the moment. I'm very curious to know about the use cases that you found really, really powerful. But to answer this question, Chris, I think that's you have to keep a human in the loop, keeping yourself in the loop. But what's the point of keeping yourself in the loop if you don't understand what you're doing, right? So you need to put a human in the loop, but an AI ready human, not an AI powered human. So that's the reason you need to build that set of skills that we were talking about. So let me see if I can go back here for a few things just to explain what's going on today, Chris, if you allow me. So this is a tech AI adoption chart. So just to illustrate it more, AI hasn't been, wasn't created in 2023 when you saw ChatGPT for the first time, okay? So it comes from the 50s. And AI was created to be a system that can replicate activities that originally would require human intelligence. So throughout decades, there was several AI winners because the technology surrounding and powering this technology wasn't ready, like cloud computing and that kind of stuff. So at the moment, we are at the point where the early majority of people in every profession, every single business is trying to jump in and leverage the power and find useful use cases. So that's pretty much the early majority. I call it the point of no return. So in my view, safety professionals should be coming on board right now to learn and see if and where it makes sense, for them to use AI or technology. And when I say technology, it doesn't necessarily need to be AI. You can, for example, use drones to replace the need for people working at height for inspections or going in confined space for tank inspections. There are several, use cases for technology here. You don't necessarily want to be in the late majority or in the laggards because that's going to be too late. So in my view, that's a very specific window now for you to take action because from now we don't know, but that might be too late for you to start developing because as you said, Christian, what was new today is a kind of like a old already. And just to illustrate the how this is moving fast, Christian, on the right-hand side, we have this chart about how fast ChatGPT took off. It took 13 years for the internet to take 800 million users on board, but only 2.5, 3 years for ChatGPT to bring the same amount of users on board. So I'm sure that you're probably one of them, but now you need to figure out how you will prepare yourself to start making good decisions and mitigating the risks of AI.
Yeah, this stuff I find really fascinating personally. And you can actually, that sort of chart with the showing the take up of ChatGPT and the speed of that, you can also compare that to things like Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, it's like X, these sort of technologies that are everywhere, and people feel as if every single person they know is using them. And ChatGPT, I think I'm right in saying, is has been taken up even faster than all of those things, and so the trend is so strong. And obviously, what you also have to remember is that ChatGPT is only one of these large language models. It's the most prominent one, and the most well known. But there are lots more as well. And I'd really urge people to think about that curve, that adaptation curve that you shared. And I've been saying for a long time, try and jump on this wave and ride it, and don't be standing on the beach as the tsunami crashes into shore. So I think
Yeah.
definitely echo what you're.
Yeah. And Chris, can I inverse the role and ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Yeah, so I know you're very keen on solving one of the biggest causes for injuries and fatalities, everywhere, which is caused by slip, trips, and falls, right? But I'm pretty sure, and this is something that's very physical. You have to go on site and do inspections and provide, the mitigations to prevent the risks, to manage the risk. But I'm pretty sure that you use AI yourself, right? So where and how would you find AI for yourself more interesting and powerful?
Yeah, no, great question. So I actually asked ChatGPT recently to rank my usage of ChatGPT, and it suggested to me that I was in the top 1% of world users, not in terms of my skill, I hasten to add, but in terms of, yeah, I'm not a sort of prompt engineering expert, but I'm using it a lot. We're using it in the business a lot, less so than my own personal usage. But for example, I rarely now Google anything. I tend to go and use ChatGPT to ask questions. So that's the extent to which I've sort of adopted AI rather than the internet.
That's great. That's great, Christian. And I think you're on mute now. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, well, going forward here, I think it's important also to mention that AI, as I said, is not only ChatGPT. There are several other tools, and suddenly, if you look at the major EHS software providers that we use on a daily basis, the likes of, let's say, Quality, Evotix, Velocity AI, Benchmark, GenSuite, all of them are launching something AI related in 2026, right? So they launched AI agents. They are claiming that they solve our problems, but how can we trust, right? How do we make a decision to understand whether their claims are really valid or if they are just wrapping ChatGPT and trying to sell you premium stuff? So if you don't know about it, if you don't understand the basics, it's really difficult for you to have the conversations with the vendors so you can pretty much make informed decision, right? And just to answer one of your questions previously, Christian, there was also a very recent study by the Future of Life Institute that they ranked the major AI models in regards to safety and risk. And the best one didn't rank better than C plus. So yes, we're using this stuff, and sometimes it looks so convincing, but they are not there yet in terms of like a safety. So keeping human in the loop is critically important for us to make the right decisions when using AI or not. And that's my main understanding about it to this date.
yeah, I would echo that for sure. If I think about obviously, as you said, I'm quite niche in what I do, right? Um, and I would say I use the analogy often that a health and safety professional needs to be a bit like a GP, and therefore they have to have knowledge that's a mile wide. But if it's a mile wide, it can only ever be an inch deep. What I do is an inch wide and a mile deep, and so you absolutely can't get the depth of information on my niche topic that I know from ChatGPT, for example, yet. That's not to say that eventually you couldn't get it, but also when I've been researching topics or if people have asked me questions and I've not known the answer because it's outside my area of expertise, doing some research using these large language models, you're getting, as you say, convincing answers. But actually, if you sort of peel back slightly under the surface a little bit, they're not quite as strong as they sort of purport to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was reading one of the questions here in the chat by Nicholas, and he asked a great question about if computers cannot be held accountable, how can we allow self-driving cars on the roads? That's a great question, Nicholas. And there's one thing that we need to bear in mind that technology will keep evolving, evolving, and evolving. And that's pretty much something that we cannot stop. And it's good, it's a good thing. So think about like thousands of years ago when human for the first time discovered or made fire, you know. So all of the and now imagine the benefits of just like a, from one spark creating heat and fire to cook to get warmer. But think about also the incidents that probably happened, at the same time because people discovered the fire. And then we evolve, and then, for example, human beings suddenly created will, and from that point, things, improved a lot. But on the other hand, incidents and accidents, occurred. And that's something that through the time you learn how to manage, we create more systems to mitigate or to attenuate the risks of that things if they happen. That's the same with the self-driving car. So the technology today is way more mature. It's really, really safe, but it requires strict controls. So that's the reason why in some places the studies and the tests for self-driving cars are going faster because one, regulation might be allowing it to happen faster, but they are having this like let's say small test pilots. So when they fix all the issues, it can then be deployed to a larger scale. So to answer your question, technology will never stop. And there will be other use cases that you might ask yourself, how are we allowing this to happen? And that's technology. There's something that it will always evolve. And unfortunately, it is what it is. Or fortunately, it is what it is because we as human beings, we are looking for the next thing. We went to the moon and now we want to go to Mars. So that's pretty much the beauty of being humans and having this creativity. But that doesn't change the fact that we need to put in place strict controls, risk assessments to make sure that if something fails, it fails safely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you keep sending any more questions through in the chat, or if you want to come and have a chat to Lucas, then just raise your hand and in the reactions, raise your hand, and you can come up and chat to him. Just going back to what you were saying about the tech and AI offerings that are available now, and you say that there's potential for a bit of smoke and mirrors and misinformation and misunderstanding. How would you sort of advise people to go about assessing what there is and what is worth their time or what isn't worth their time? Are there any particular steps or like a process that you would sort of recommend people should go through?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in general, Chris, the AI genie won't go back to the bottle. It's here to stay. And more we're going to see those solutions, those apps and things emerging in the markets. And we're going to be sometimes confused about how we can assess whether it makes sense for us or not. So the first thing I recommend is that we need to stop being the rule keeper. We need to start becoming change makers and connectors. So knowledge is power. We need to learn about this thing. As I said, not to the level you'll become a data scientist or like a tax savvy, safety professional, but the basics. That's the first thing. The other thing is about, creating room in your, especially space in your mind, so you can continue to find the opportunities and also understand the risks because now you understand more about the technology itself. So it's about also you to stretch yourself out of your comfort zone and build the thing that I mentioned in the beginning of the call, which is adaptive intelligence. Understanding the surroundings, what's going on around you in your company, in your industry, and becoming, more knowledgeable on other things that are, more softy and power skills related. So when you develop this knowledge, this skill set, you then become more digitally fluent to have conversations with those EHS software vendors. So you ask the right questions. How does it work? Is it a black box, or how your system process information and how data flows in and flows out? Because those things sometimes are black boxes, and we don't want to rely on those things. you'll be more fluent in a point of creating the right policies, the right controls, the risk mitigations, and the kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's pretty much about building that confidence to have these difficult conversations with the vendors and really interrogate their systems from inside out. So you can see, you know, things like, for example, cybersecurity and data privacy. How do they go about, ensuring that their systems can process people's informations in a way that it doesn't, impact those regulations that we have in Europe and in the UK. So that's pretty much like the first couple of steps that I would definitely recommend
Yeah.
someone to take.
And I'd say there as well, what's interesting is that you've very clearly articulated that there's the technical skills, but there's also the kind of soft skills, because just like you could have those diplomas and stuff and have that technical skill in the olden days, shall we say, um, if you haven't got those soft skills in terms of building rapport, influencing, persuading, etc., you were going to sort of get to a glass ceiling. And I think that is just being added to with this, because if you've got the tech skills to understand this whole technological space and the AI space, but you don't have some of those soft skills, then that glass ceiling is almost going to be amplified and you're going to hit it faster. So you definitely need to be working on both.
I totally agree. And I have one more piece of information here to share that may, illustrate what you just said. Let's see if it works. Okay, so this is a study by Walter Kluwer, who is the owner of Enable the software. So they made a quick research recently about the state of those digital skills across the EHS profession. And 25% of the respondents says, well, I don't understand or have AI skills at all. And 61% of respondents say, well, I consider myself as beginners. So in total here, we're talking about 86%, Chris. And it's not only AI skills that we're talking about. There are other power and soft skills that are critically important for us to develop. And, on the other hand, the simple answer is you have to embrace it. You know what I mean? If you really want to be where we discussed in the beginning of the call, the person that is the connector, the change maker, the innovator, the person that is not sitting at the corner of the boardroom while other leaders are making the decisions that will create the risks that inevitably you are going to be the one trying to mitigate. You need to develop this literacy. And that brings me to a point where I talk with EHS senior people all the time because that's what I do. And I recently spoke with a person that leads EHS for a major company in the mining sector. And the person said to me, Lucas, I used to be the guy slapping AI in the face, like Will Smith did here with Chris Rock. But now I decided to be the person embracing it. So I'm not only building this literacy for me, but I find myself responsible to do the same for my direct reports, the managers running EHS in the countries where we operate. So if you're embracing learning, you can potentially unlock leverage to, have to deal with less admin work, paperwork. So you can potentially also have more field time with, frontline workers. And that's for me how you tackle those issues and position yourself as someone who is learning continuously. And that's a journey. You're not going to become, super fluent in everything straight away. And I think, Christian, that we are very good in creating psychological safe work environments for others, saying, well, it's okay if you don't know, raise your hands, ask the questions, it's fine, you have a safe space here. But we have to extend that same compassion, that same understanding towards ourselves in regards to, well, I want to learn about it. I need a starting point. I'm not going to know everything tomorrow, but at least if I do 1% today, I'm going to be 1% better, keeping the fundamentals strong, the compliance, the investigation, the risk management, change management, and etc. but also developing something alongside that will, help me create a better version of myself as a safety professional.
Yeah, that's a really powerful feeling to focus on. I think that we've got to be kind to ourselves and we've got to be understanding of ourselves because we are where we are, and actually we're all learning about this stuff. Uh, People are sort of saying they're an expert in AI. They've not been doing it for very long. Some people have, but lots of people who are sort of claiming to be experts, they're not really experts. They've just done a bit more work. They're a bit further on that journey than many of us. Let's move on, Lucas, to sort of what you've done around the Safety 4.0 Academy, because this is a kind of a potential next step for people. Because I can imagine that some people joining us today might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of this stuff.
Yes.
So, talk to us a little bit about what you've done with the Safety 4.0 Academy, what it is, how it works, and I guess is that a sort of potential sensible next step for somebody whose interest is piqued by this topic but doesn't really know where to
In the
go.
digital age, safety leadership without digital skills.
Absolutely. And thanks for asking this question. So I created the Safety 4.0 Academy because I realized that there is this skills gap that needs to be addressed and closed. So I didn't just create a course, I created an academy, and the academy will continue to evolve going forward. But to get started, I asked the major traditional training providers about what's your offering, what do you have currently that can help me to upskill myself. And because I found pretty much a negative response in those training settings, I decided to create something myself based on years of research, experimentation, and real use cases. Not only the good, but also the bad stuff. Because I'm not here saying that AI is perfect. AI isn't perfect. Technology isn't perfect. Human beings are the closest thing of being perfect, in the universe. But we have also imperfections that we are trying to improve every day, right? So it's what I read in the chat here. Trust, but 100% verified. So I approached IOSH and I said, well, I will create a course. Would you, stamp the course? And IOSH said, well, if you meet all of our quality criteria, we will be happy to review your course and potentially accredit your course. So having said that, the Safety 4.0 Academy is the world's first course approved by IOSH and certified by CPD to teach you those skills that we just talked about. And it's pretty much something really, really unique. And so far we have trained, a high number of people from Middle East, Australia, United States, UK, Europe, and etc., including Brazil, my home country. So to illustrate what is the Academy, I would like to share my screen again, if you allow me, Chris.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let me just do it.
In the digital age, safety leadership without digital skills has become a liability. The problem? Traditional safety training never prepared you for this shift. Today, AI and tech skills in EHS are alarmingly low. 25% of professionals have no digital experience at all, and 61% say they're just beginners. But the world of safety is changing fast. Industry 4.0, AI, data analytics, and automation are already redefining how we prevent incidents, measure performance, and protect people. And every day you wait to upskill, the gap widens, and the risk of falling behind grows. The solution? You need new skills. You need to become the Safety 4.0 leader. Introducing the Safety 4.0 Academy, a comprehensive transformation program that covers everything you need to become a Safety 4.0 leader in times of rapid technological change. The world's first IOSH-approved and CPD-certified training designed to transform your career from rule keeper to change maker. A modern Safety 4.0 curriculum, expert-led masterclasses, and practical resources to help you learn in hours, not months. Trusted by safety leaders worldwide. Upskill now. And don't just keep up with change.
And that's it.
Lead it.
That's the Academy. And as I said, we've been working
Perfect.
with professionals all over the world and helping them to build the confidence that they are looking for in today's world.
Fantastic. So just conscious of time and want to be
Yeah.
respectful of people's time who've joined us live. So who would you say this is particularly for? And where would they learn how to sort of get involved?
Yeah, so it's an introductory course. At the moment, it's a self-paced learning course, but the academy is evolving, and very soon we're going to launch our first cohorts that will take a few weeks to complete. It's going to be like a combination of e-learnings plus live master classes. So this course is for people that are willing to learn. They might have no experience or skills at all, but it's designed for EHS managers, heads of departments, the directors, VPs. It's pretty much like a managerial and above course at all, because we are going to talk about something that, in my view, you need to be on a managerial role so you can have a better understanding about the context of the course.
Fantastic. And what's the URL and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, lovely. So the URL is, safetyacademy.tech. I will put here on the screen something for you to find me. So you can just scan the QR codes. I think that's going to be easier for all of us to find the academy. So
Thanks for that. Yeah.
yeah. So here's just a snapshot of the feedback received in the course so far. And here is pretty much how you can find us. So I have a free ebook that's called Become the Safety 4.0 Leader. So if you download the ebook, you get to know more about Safety 4.0, and also you can visit the Academy website. So I invite you all to download this ebook, because it's like a wake-up call, eye-opening reading for you to get started.
Perfect. Leave that on screen. Last
Okay.
couple of questions. I had a question here from LinkedIn. From Manjit, does digital fluency in AI require us to have an understanding of Python? Or if not, what's our fluency if we can't really understand that?
Oh, not at all. So as I said, the issue here is not becoming a data scientist or someone who knows how to program. In fact, nowadays with AI, there are no-code tools that you can build, tools for yourself if you, of course, know how to prompt and understand, something in a more advanced degree. But no Python, no technical skills in that regard. So digital fluency here is like in regards to safety tech as a whole, different applications, not only AI, not about programming or becoming a data or a programmer, analyst or someone with more advanced skills.
Fantastic. And last question for me then. If there's one kind of shift in mindset that you'd like people to take away from today, and to power forwards with their EHS career, what would that be and why?
I think that first of all is being open, to embrace and to change your mindset. If you've been, 100% a believer that health and safety and environmental management is about compliance, I think that's no longer the case. So please, think about how you can change your mindset in regards to the role of technology and other things like as well, for example, human factors and human performance. I think something that I really, really resonates with me is not only 100% about technology at all. And then once you learn about it, start to identify opportunities in your own, working setting or, personal applications about where and how you could apply those, tech skills that you acquired. And once you find a problem that can be solved with technology, start small. And then, once you feel confident enough, launch, pilot projects in your workplace or whatever, and bring people together, work with other leaders of the business, IT, HR, operations. Don't work in silo. It's something that it can be way more powerful if you work collaboratively. And the last thing I would recommend is to focus on ethics, governance, and compliance. There are today strict rules that we need to be aware of when we are working with those systems. As I said, trust but verify.
Absolutely. Great. Well, look, thank you so much, Lucas. We covered a lot in that time, and do recommend people go away and have a look at what you're up to with the Safety 4.0 Academy. Somebody I saw asked a question about, is there going to be a little discount code or something? I'll speak to Lucas about that. I'm sure he'll give us something for us loyal Safety Roundtable members to benefit from. We can put something in place for you there.
No, absolutely. I'm happy to talk with you.
Think about this, guys.
And thank you very much, everyone, for your time. We'd love to have the conversation. So thanks for having me today, Chris.
Yeah, no, pleasure. And yeah, do think about this. It's a big topic, but it's a really critical one. So, as you're planning your 2026 in safety, definitely think about this. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on the Safety and Risk Success podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit follow and do share on social media. Does anyone you know spring to mind as a great guest, even yourself? If so, please contact us on podcast@slipsafety.co.uk. See you next week for another episode.